Okay. All right. Welcome to the virtual college exploration for all Pennsylvania students, sponsored by the Pennsylvania Association for College Admissions Counseling and StriveScan. PACAC is a nonprofit association comprised of more than 12,000 school counselors, college admission counselors, independent education consultants, and other professionals responsible for guiding students through the important transition from high school to post-secondary options. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on the top of your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many different sessions happening, so to be sure to check out the full schedule at PACAC.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within a week at the same website, PACAC.org. I'd like to now turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you for coming to this webinar on the benefits of studying in the United Kingdom. We're very excited to have you, and thank you so much, PACAC, for having us. My name is Jackie Christopher. I am the Regional Manager of University of Roehampton, and I am going to introduce you to the other representatives that are here with us today. Ian?
Hi everyone, sorry. My name's Ian Harris. I'm the International Recruitment Manager for Northumbria University, so I'm the only official Brit here, and I'm actually joining you guys from my study stroke lounge stroke dining room in the city of Newcastle upon Tyne, northeast England. So thank you for the opportunity. I hope you find this informative.
My name is Will Abraham. I'm the International Officer for Goldsmiths University of London, and I'm based in Brooklyn, New York.
Hi guys, thanks so much for joining us today. I can't speak today, but my name is Jason Bai. I'm the Senior International Officer with the University of Glasgow. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and obviously you can tell this accent is all Baltimore, but I was a student from the U.S. who studied in the U.K. for a year in undergrad and then stayed for my postgrad. So I've done things both ways. So if you have any questions about how your skills translate across the Atlantic, feel free to reach out and we'll be able to help.
Great, thanks guys. Well, yeah, we are going to be talking about the benefits of studying in the UK, and as Jason mentioned, he is based here in the US, so I'm based in New York, and so is Will. Ian is definitely in England right now, as you can hear. But yeah, we're going to go through all the benefits, and then while we're going through the presentation, please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A box, and we're also going to answer it if we haven't answered it during the presentation. But just before we go into the benefits of studying in the UK, we're going to talk about, why study internationally and why do you want to choose the UK? And what's so unique about the United Kingdom? So studying internationally, so you do have the benefit to have an early degree specialization. So if there's a particular field that you're very interested in and only want to specialize in, the UK is a great option for that. Perfect for students who have that genuine interest in the subject. The degrees are recognized globally. They are transferable. There are some degrees that are a little bit tricky, which we can discuss later, that we recommend that you just double check and make sure that that degree can be transferred back to your state. Usually it happens with the medical degrees, but the majority of the degrees, they do transfer back very easily, and they're recognized internationally. There is also the option, there is also the benefit of affordability. So if you're looking at US and UK universities, it might be a great option to look at finances too. You might be saving a lot more studying in the UK, especially the length of the degree. So that might be an option that might be very beneficial for you and your family going forward. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about that later on. it's also a gateway to explore new regions, countries. It's only, you know, I think of the UK as kind of, if you compare it to the States, as just one state, compare it to, you know, of the States to Europe. So it's very easy to travel around Europe. When you're in the UK, you can easily take a train to Paris or Brussels. So if you're looking to explore and travel, this is a great opportunity, and it's very affordable to travel while you're in the UK. This is really for the type of student who is more independent socially and academically and want to just expand themselves in all those different areas. So just to kind of give you a brief overview of the UK, there's 4 countries with distinct cultures. We have England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And they're all very distinct from each other. You know, they have smaller cities, larger cities. The larger cities outside of London can range from 450,000 to 1.2 million people, compared to London, which is 8 million people. Mid-size, you're looking at around 230,000 people, and that's Coventry, Brighton, Nottingham, Belfast, Newcastle. Newcastle is where Ian is located, Southampton and Aberdeen. And then the smaller, I would say cities, towns, is less than 230,000 people. And those are kind of those little quintessential British towns that you would see in pictures that are really nice. And that includes Winchester, Bath, Lincoln, Durham, and a few others. So where can you study in the UK? There's so many different options. As I explained, it's very, you know, there's a wide range of towns, cities that you can choose from. You can absolutely study in London if you like, in the center of London, very international, very easy to travel around and explore. Or you can, you know, decide to choose a large, medium, or small city outside of London that you still get that beautiful British culture and experience. Now, there's different types of campuses that you can choose from. There's, you know, the regular type of campus where everything's right there, or a city type of campus, or multi-site where you have to go from one location to the next. But transportation is very accessible in the UK. It's so easy to get around. We always recommend students, you don't need a car. There's airports in different locations. Trains are very accessible. So just think about, do you want to be closer to an airport? Where's the nearest airport from the campus? So just some things to think about. But also what's important is looking at the program itself and what it entails. And are you okay with going into a program that's just that specific subject, or are you more interested in dabbling in different subjects while you're doing your degree? So remember, it's not just London or England, but there's also Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland that you can choose from.
So now that Jackie has kind of gone over our you know, introduction to studying in the UK and why you might want to pursue a degree there, I'm going to give you a little rundown about the academics in the UK and how it might differ from what you're traditionally used to in US schools. So in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, which is where you know, my university, Jackie's university, and Ian's university are located all in England, we have 3-year degrees. So they're very subject focused. You apply directly to the program, and you don't take any general education or general core curriculum as part of the degrees. So you only study courses that are related to your degree program. So for instance, if you're only looking to study, you know, English or English literature, creative writing, things like that, all the courses will be focused on those subjects. You want to take a math class or a biology class, it's just English. In Scotland, it's a little bit different of a system, and actually the US university system is based off the Scottish system. So it's a 4-year degree program, and it's a bit more flexible in the courses that you can take in your first and second years, and then in the third and fourth years, you'll do a specialization in one particular degree program. So a big question, obviously, for American students who are used to that liberal arts curriculum is, is England, Wales, and Northern Ireland right for me? So there are a few different options when you are looking at degree programs in these countries. And the traditional path is simply a 3-year degree. And that can either be a joint honors degree, which is sort of like equivalent to a double major in the US. So you combine 2 programs together, or just, a straight degree in, let's say, physics. The other options that you have are to add a study abroad or placement year in the middle of your studies. So essentially it makes it a 4-year degree program. However, you're still saving the money that you would save based on a 3-year program, because that study abroad placement year usually is significantly cheaper than the other years that you're doing school. So if you do choose to add a work placement or a study abroad year between your 2nd and 3rd year, that's totally an option at most universities. The other option is to do a 3+1, which is basically an integrated master's degree in addition to your bachelor's degree. So since in these countries, a master's program is typically 1 year in length, you're able to achieve both a bachelor's and a master's degree in the same time you get only a bachelor's in the United States. So that's also an option if you're looking to maybe accelerate your program a little bit more and save some money. With the Scottish system, it's a bit more akin to the American system, but kind of a hybrid between the two. So in year 1, you'll choose 3 sort of subjects that you want to focus on. And in this, for instance, we're pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Physics. So you have physics, chemistry, and astronomy in the first year. Then in the 2nd year, you kind of narrow it down to perhaps 2 of those subjects that you find most interesting. So this hypothetical student chose physics and chemistry, and then decided ultimately to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Physics. So their 3rd and 4th year focused exclusively on physics. Now, Jackie did touch a little bit about accreditation and recognition of degrees in other countries outside of the UK, and I'm here to let you know that they are fully transferable. All the UK degrees are fully accepted in the United States and are looked upon very favorably. So your international experience will definitely help you stand out, and your CV will be definitely a bit more built out than maybe your American counterparts. You perhaps will have a 3-year degree program or 4-year degree program in the UK, then also a study abroad program somewhere else, maybe a placement year or an internship that's international, and it really kind of makes you set out from the pack. Students also find that studying overseas allows them to make really useful international connections and networking. For instance, in my own life, I studied in Italy, and several years after I left Italy, I was able to kind of procure a position there and ended up working full-time in Italy for 2 additional years. So you can always return to where you studied, and always come back home. But you definitely have all those connections when you've studied abroad and earned an international degree.
Yeah, so I'm going to chime in, and hopefully now that you guys are on board with the degree structure of the UK, we can talk about how it is that you can afford it. I think it's a big myth that international study is reserved for the super rich kids, and hopefully we can show you that that's not necessarily true. So when you're looking at the tuition fees of the UK compared to US universities, especially with out-of-state options, if you're looking to leave Pennsylvania, international schools in the UK have a much more competitive tuition price than out-of-state options. In-state options within the US tend to give us a run for our money, but if you're looking at out-of-state options, if that's something that's on the table, international tuition fees in the UK are typically a fraction of the cost. Another important thing to note is that if you are looking at taking out student loans, it's sometimes not the most attractive option. However, every little bit helps to cover the cost of tuition. Most UK universities are FAFSA registered, and the money comes over just like it would with a US school. You would complete the process just as you would if you were staying in the US. If anybody has access to the GI Bill or any kind of Veterans Affairs funding, those funds are also applicable to universities and degrees in the UK. Scholarships within the UK, they vary by university. Typically, scholarships are based off of academic merit and not so much of a need-based conversation. You can look at Scotland, for instance, where Scottish students get to go to university for free. So the need-based conversation simply doesn't exist in the country. In the UK, universities in the rest of the UK, that conversation could be a little bit different. But typically what you'll find, most scholarships are going to be academic merit based, which will either be off of your high school GPA or possibly AP, SAT subject test scores. So just make sure to check to see what you'll be eligible with your academic scores. With your student visa, to help cover the costs, if you want to work part-time, it's very, very reasonable to expect yourself to be able to find a job and to be able to work while you're a student. With your student visa, you can work up to 20 hours a week while you're in term time. So when classes are actually scheduled from traditional semesters from September to December, from February until April, and then from May to June. And then while you have those university breaks, if you choose to stay in the UK and not come home, sometimes at the end of the year for the end of the year holidays, you start missing your family and you want to come home for everything. But if you stay in the UK while you have a break where there are no scheduled classes, you can actually work full-time on your student visa. And then while you are there, you will pay a one-time fee for the NHS, which is the National Healthcare Service. So universal healthcare in the UK, you pay a one-time fee, and that covers the costs for visits to going to see a GP or a doctor, going to the hospital, knock on wood, if that were to ever happen. The only thing in England and Northern Ireland is that it does not cover the cost of prescription, but prescriptions, to get a prescription filled if something gross happens like pink eye or something gross, you can get a prescription filled for much, much cheaper than you can in the US. If you're in Wales or Scotland, you can fill prescriptions for free. So sometimes if you're close enough to the border, it's cheaper to actually buy a train ticket, hop over to a GP office in Wales or Scotland, and then get your prescription filled there for free. When we're looking at tuition by the numbers, this is a very broad range that you can see. So just keep in mind that in the US, you've got 4 years of tuition. That range is 12K to 54K per year, with the total cost of the range above. In the UK, for the rest of the UK, not Scotland, but in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland, you've got a 3-year degree. So that extra year that you're not spending at university is obviously a cost savings. When you're looking in Scotland, it is still a 4-year degree. However, tuition, at least at the University of Glasgow, for example, it's just under $25,000. So a little bit less than the range that you have here per year. So even if you're doing a 4-year degree in Scotland, you end up saving quite a bit of money just on tuition, for sure. When we're looking at accommodation, everybody's kind of nervous about figuring out who your roommate is and where you're going to be living on campus. However, in the UK, it's fairly normal to have your own single study bedroom. So you don't really have to worry about where your roommate is from or who they are. All students are typically going to be given their own room, and you'll be given a flat, which is what they call an apartment, and you'll share your flat 4 to 6 other students, depending on how much of a high occupancy flat it is. Typically, within that flat where everybody's got their own room, the kitchen is the shared accommodation area. So students are in charge of cooking for themselves. There are no meal plans that you have to buy. You're in complete control of your own expenses. So if you want to shop at Whole Foods, you will certainly spend towards the upper range of whatever your budget is. If you're perfectly fine going to the Tesco, which is the local supermarket, you won't spend nearly as much as other students. You will have the option to live on or off campus. Being an international first-year student, you are guaranteed accommodation for most UK universities. So you can expect to live on campus if you want. I would recommend it just because it makes it a lot easier to make friends. You're probably in a new city that you might not have been to, but keep in mind that other students from other cities in the UK might not have been to that city either before they showed up for school. So I'd recommend living on campus, but if off campus is going to work better for you, in all cities, there are tons of student accommodation options, for sure. And then for the overview, just to give you guys a refresher of the benefits of studying in the UK, there are 3 basic principles that you can use to kind of remember. So as far as the academic benefits of studying in the UK, what we mean by new viewpoints and perspectives with a global focus, if you look geographically, the UK is just a little bit more centered to the rest of the world than where we are in the US. And it makes it easier financially and physically speaking for students from other parts of the world to end up in the UK as opposed to coming into the US. So it's a conversation that's so simple, like, how do you discuss conflict in the Middle East without students from the Middle East? And that's something that I found I didn't have at my US university, where diversity is considered by state. However, me and another student from Kansas is not the best measure of diversity, in my opinion. At least when you're from the same country with varying levels of differences, you're exposed to the same media biases, you're exposed to the same level of information that you're interacting with, and the diversity of opinion in your classroom is just, you don't have as much access as you have as if you were in the UK. From London, in 5 hours, you're in Amman in Jordan. It takes longer to get from DC to LA. You know, and think about how many cultures and languages that you're crossing over in that 5-hour time span. And you have those perspectives sitting in the classroom with you. Financially, a shorter completion time obviously is going to equal a lower tuition cost for that 3-year degree in England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Even though you are going out of the country, typically tuition is a lot cheaper than at least out-of-state options. You are allowed to work, you get NHS coverage while you're there, so you don't have to worry about healthcare. FAFSA is accepted. And then when it comes down to your career, the British Council, which is the UK government's educational representation based in the US, they did an employer study of Fortune 500 companies, and they found that 80% or more were actively seeking students with an international experience as part of their degree. Having that cross-cultural competence really does give you a skill to make you employable when you get back. You do have the opportunity to work on your current student visa, and then under current UK legislation, you have 2 years to stay in the UK for a post-study work visa, so you are allowed to work in the UK when you graduate.
Okay, so now I get the most exciting part, the how to apply. So hopefully this is, the rest of the presentation is whet your appetite a little bit. And obviously with the UK accent, it sounds like I'm the voice of authority, but that could be a dangerous proposition there. So in terms of how to apply, it can be quite daunting because it is a very different experience to what you would be used to in the US. And I'll talk about a few of those differences as we progress in the next couple of slides. I think the important thing is that don't be daunted by it. There's pros and cons to the process of applying to the UK for education, but we're all here to help and advise. And there's lots of fantastic resources that are available across the provisions that we're going to talk about through this presentation, but also just by speaking to us guys. We actually have different setups here in the UK compared to what you would be used to in terms of liaising with college advisors from the US. Typically, UK advisors and recruiters are that. We're not admissions staff, so we tend to give advice. We can inform the admissions team, but a lot of the communications that you'll be having with the university will be with the admissions and not us in terms of determining the outcome of your application. I think that's a key difference when it comes to what you might be used to with those US college advisors. UCAS is the main processing center for all applications. Now, as you'll see on that slide, you can apply through other means, Common App, and some universities will accept direct applications. But the key point here is you cannot combine. So you cannot play the game and look to apply to some of the UK universities, approximately 25 that are currently on the Common App, along with a few direct applications, along with applying through UCAS. So you'll see on there, one of the limitations of UCAS is that you can only apply up to 5 courses, and you can only apply through 1 application. So that 1 application will go to all of your choices of institutions, and that's an important difference, as well as the difference that you are declaring your major on application. So you're not just applying to the university, you are also applying for the major that you want to study. And that's a big step, especially, and not to sound patronizing, because I don't think any of us here still know what we want to do when we're older, but certainly 16, 17 is a big decision to start thinking about what you want to study, focus your study for the next 3 or 4 years. So in terms of applying for UCAS, UCAS is a great first point of reference in terms of your research. So actually on UCAS, you will have access to all of the UK universities and all of the degrees, majors that are available out there. So just to give you an idea, there's over 160 UK universities and approximately 36,000 majors to which you can choose from. And you've got to get that down to 5. So there's a lot of research that you can do from this point through to that declaring that application. So UCAS will list all of those universities and all of those majors. So it's a great place to check in, put a few searches based on what you're interested in studying, and then you will find those institutions that offer it. And you'll be surprised at what's out there. 36,000 majors offers a huge range in terms of subjects that you may have heard of, subjects that you may have studied, through to passions and interests and very vocational based majors. So I think there's something for everything has already been described earlier on in this presentation in terms of the variety of the UK educational experience. So as you say, you can use UCAS, research courses, find web links to universities, find out about open days. Some of you may have the opportunity to come and visit the UK, and the majority of the time open days will be during the summer or during the fall, and you can actually fit with the geography of the UK quite a few open days in quite a short number of days. So it's a great opportunity to get out there, get over here if you can, and see a number of universities very easily. The important piece here is entry criteria. We are very transparent in the UK in terms of what we're looking for. We don't use a holistic application process as you would find more commonly used in the US. So you can go onto our website, you can use UCAS as a first point of reference, go onto the individual institutional websites and look at the US entry criteria. And that will give you a real benchmark on also trying to filter down all of those courses to the universities that you have the right academic profile for. So the key facts here, maximum 5 choices, some choice restrictions for medicine, veterinary science, dentistry. There's a maximum of 4 choices there. And you can only apply for either Oxford or Cambridge, not either. There is an early application process in terms of a deadline date for that as well. So that's coming up quite soon, October the 15th. For equal consideration, you're looking at January the 15th. And there's a simple application cost as well. And that's for UCAS, that doesn't go to the universities, and you can see how that's broken down there. And as I said, it's a very transparent process. You'll know exactly what's required of you, and it's all through one application. So yeah, we are very transparent with the information that we provide. You can find that on all of our websites. Typically, we are looking for a GPA, and then we will look in addition at the standardized test scores. There may be extra criteria and requirements depending on the major that you're looking into, but you can access that information about what is required in the application through the websites. Another integral part of the UCAS application, amongst all of your qualifications, is the personal statement. I'm going to come to that in a moment because there's one element of the academic side of the application form which can create a few troubles and problems for students and advisors, and that's this idea of predicted grades. A lot of the time when you apply to a UK university, in order for the UK universities to make a decision on your application, we need to get a sense of where your academic profile is. And that's about inputting whatever qualifications you have existing, but also giving us a sense of where that student is going to be or where you are in terms of your predicted grade. So if you're doing AP tests, are you going to be level 4, 3, etc.? So you need to put that in there as a realistic reflection of your academic proficiency. The personal statement is an opportunity for you to talk about why you want to apply for that particular major, and you can include academic and out-of-class experience as well, which just reflect your passion, your interests. Maybe you've got some career aspirations, whatever it may be. And also from your perspective, what is it that you want to study in the UK? The key thing about this personal statement, as I mentioned already, is that this one application will go to all of the universities you apply to. So don't go putting in that personal statement, I'm really interested in studying at Glasgow, and then send that application to Roehampton, Goldsmiths and Northumbria, because we're going to see straight away that your real passion is for studying at Glasgow, which I can understand, of course. So I think now we've got an opportunity for each of us to talk about our institutions. So I think, if I'm right, it's Roehampton first.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So yeah, University of Roehampton, we've been teaching for over 175 years. We're about 30 minutes away from central London. We're southwest. We're about 10 minutes away from Wimbledon. So it's a beautiful, posh area of London. And as you can see in the picture, it's a stunning, beautiful campus. We have 54 acres of parkland campus, which is so nice, and everything's right there: nurse's office, library, accommodation. We are SAT, ACT optional, and we have a free direct online application as well. Just want to make sure you're aware, but you can also apply to us instead of through the free online application. You can apply to us directly through UCAS. We have about 8,000 students, so it's a medium-sized university. Our programs, our specialty programs, zoology, business, creative writing, journalism, psychology, film and photography, and cost of attendance, total tuition, living expenses, everything is usually around $38,000 for the year. Okay, Will.
Hi there. My name is Will. Again, I work at Goldsmiths, University of London, and we are an urban campus based in Southeast London and about 10 minutes from the city center via the train. We are a public top-tier research institution rated number 21 in the UK for the quality and significance of our research. We're also a medium-sized university, about 10,000 students. Our most popular programs are media and communications and art and design, of which we are both in the top 10 in the world and top 5 in the UK. And other popular programs for students are psychology, computer science, politics and international relations, and also our Institute for Management Studies, which is our undergraduate entrepreneurial management and business programs. Our total cost of attendance is very similar to Roehampton, around $36,000 to $38,000 US per year, and we do have international scholarships available. We are likewise SAT and ACT optional, and our application is through UCAS. The minimum requirement to apply is a 3.0 unweighted GPA. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me via my email address at the bottom of the screen.
So hey, Northumbria University, located in the city of Newcastle upon Tyne, so on the northernmost English university here. Still only a 2-hour, 45-minute direct train to London, which is important for everyone in the US to know how close you are to London. So Newcastle is a very small city in terms of the geography. You certainly don't need a car, and we are a urban city centre campus right in the centre of Newcastle upon Tyne. Newcastle has a population of around 300,000. 1 in 6 people in the city is a student due to the large student population across Northumbria University and also Newcastle University, both located right in the city centre. So we're a public industry-led university. What that means is we do a lot of work with local industry, with global industry to inform the provision that we have in our teaching and the opportunities in terms of placements throughout the years for students. We have a population of around 30,000, 21,000 undergraduate from about approximately 130 different countries, around 200 from the US. The popular programs for US students, design, nursing, sports science management, etc. And the cost of attendance is around $32,000 a year. That's tuition and living costs, but that's excluding our global scholarship, and also we're the only UK university as a member of the Raise Me micro scholarship scheme, so you can access up to $2,000 of your first year tuition free through extracurricular and curricular achievements. Thank you.
All right, and welcome to Glasgow. I think it's really common for everybody to know Edinburgh, and that's fine. It's a world capital, you probably should. But in the same way that Edinburgh is the seat of Scottish politics and governance, Glasgow is kind of the cultural hub of Scotland. So Glasgow is actually Scotland's largest city, even though Edinburgh is the capital. There's about 1 million people, including the city sprawl within the city, and it's the cultural hub of Scotland, being the home of the National Bagpiping Centre. BBC Scotland is based in Glasgow, so it's this hub for this very creative energy between film and TV production. Lewis Capaldi is from Glasgow. I don't know if anybody listens to him, but music is such an intrinsic part of Ouija culture. You won't be able to go very long on any city street without seeing or hearing some kind of musical act. Pubs are kind of like churches or McDonald's, where there's multiple in every single street corner, and each one has live music going at all times. Multiple live music venues, from big concert venues to very smaller ones. King Tut's Wah Wah Hut is consistently voted as one of the best alternative rock music venues in the world, and the stage is like half an inch thick. It's really cool to go see a gig there. And then the university itself is based in the West End of the city. So not quite directly in city center, but from city center, it takes 9 minutes on the subway in order to get over to campus. when you look at campus, it looks like Hogwarts. There's no way to, to avoid the comparison. It's a castle on the hill, but it's a large university with about 29,000 students. We have about 9,000 international students, not including the continental Europeans. And we have about 900 US students come over every single year across all levels of studies. All level of study for undergrad across all 4 years. We've got between 100 and 150 coming every single year. So there's between 400 and 600 US students. So it's enough to where you certainly won't be in a US bubble while you're in Scotland. But if you have a bad day and you need to vent, there's somebody from back home that you can speak to for sure. And then probably most importantly, tuition starts at just over $24,000. And that's for arts and humanities programs. That cost increases if you're looking at the sciences to cover lab fees, equipment, sterilization, and that'll jump up to about 28,000. If you're looking for medicine or vet med, that cost jumps up a little bit more to the 30s. Medicine jumps up to the 60s US dollars. And then there's 3 of me that's based in the US. I'm in DC, so if you guys are interested in Glasgow, please pop down my details, give me a shout. I'm happy to help. If I can't help you, it's out of office hours and it's something urgent, Ashley, my colleague Ashley is based in LA, my other colleague Jay is based in Chicago. So there's someone around at all times to be able to help.
Great, thanks so much, Jason. So we have about less than 10 minutes to go over any questions that you have. So please start asking any questions. We'd love to answer them for you. But this is our contact details. We should have had our email addresses, but we don't. But just Google us, you'll find our email address somewhere on the websites if you need to chat with us going forward. But we do have a question that was addressed. The question is, if I wanted to study pre-med in London, for an example, could I always have my credits transferred back to the US? Jason, would you mind answering that for us?
For sure. And Lana, the quick answer to your question is no, we can't always guarantee that they're going to be able to transfer. It is possible. It's tricky with med degrees because the AMA requires a math component, and math is not included in UK medical curriculum. So there's essentially no way that a full medical degree is going to be recognized. With pre-med, it's a little bit tricky because we obviously would counsel you, unless you want to stay in Europe, to come back to the US for med school. In order to have your international degree recognized, in order to come into med school, you have to know which med school that you want to go to. Certain med schools will require you to have a couple of math courses, so you'll have to use your electives, if you have any, to take those math credits. And then some US schools like Johns Hopkins or UPenn, for instance, require a certain amount of time of study in a US university. So Johns Hopkins requires at least 15 credits to be done within the US. UPenn requires at least 30 credits to be done in the US. So you're also looking at incorporating a study abroad year in your pre-med curriculum. So when you're looking at pre-med courses, just make sure that they have the relationships established to come back into the US for a pretty interesting reverse study abroad experience. If you do that, I'd be very interested to know what your experience is like coming back into the US having been in the UK for a year. So it's possible, it just requires a lot of forethought on your part.
Yep, and just to add to that, there is no such thing as pre-med in the UK. So just there's biomedicine, and then there's a medical degree. So it's a totally different system. So yeah, definitely reach out to us for more information. The next question is, how competitive is it to get into each university? Like, what are your acceptance rates? Would anyone like to answer that one?
Sure. So as we kind of explained, in the UK, you apply directly to a program. So admissions are generally decentralized. And what that means is every department will actually evaluate their own applications. That's at least how it is at Goldsmiths. And I think generally that's true. So basically each department has its own sort of acceptance rate. So at a school like Goldsmiths, you know, I mentioned before, we're very competitive with art and design and media and communications. Our acceptance rate for those programs could be as low as 10%. And other programs that we offer, like computer science or history, could be as high as like 65 or 70%. So it really just depends on the type of programs you're applying to and at what university.
And
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think as we were talking about in terms of the transparency of of the UK offer, you get a real sense for where you are likely to land in terms of your academic profile and the institutions you're applying to. So I think it's just being about realistic and getting a sense for what the entry criteria are that can vary considerably. The major may have the same title, but different institutions may have very different entry criteria. Depending on how that major is in terms of its competitiveness at each institution. But at Northumbria, we tend to offer about 70% plus of the applicants to our university will get an offer, a conditional offer. And then it's just about meeting those prerequisites. And that's why it's about doing your research and seeing what the entry criteria is to get a sense if you are likely to get an offer back from the university and you have that right profile.
yeah, and I'll chime in too. It's very similar at Glasgow, where the entry requirements posted are minimum entry requirements. So Glasgow, for instance, will require you to have at least a 4 on an AP exam. And if you get your results and you know that a 4 is outside of your capabilities and what's more realistic for you is to get a 3, you already know that because that 3 is not a 4 on an AP exam, you won't be given an offer at Glasgow. The flip side is that if you know that a 4 is achievable for you, it's very likely that once you meet the minimum requirements, you'll be given an offer, at least at Glasgow. If you meet the minimum, Glasgow is happy to give you an offer.
Great, thanks guys. Next question. If I wanted to study something involving science and law, would there be any transfer problems due to different laws, specifically forensic science, criminology? I know specifically for law, if you're doing a law degree, which is the LLB, it depends on, if you're coming back to the States in New York and California, you can take the bar exam, but the majority of the states, it can be a little bit tricky. But I'm not too sure about forensic science and criminology. I don't think there's any issues with that. Guys, have you heard of any issues specifically for forensic science or criminology?
No. And Jackie, you're right with the states that will recognize. There's only 5 currently that will recognize it, and they're New York, New Hampshire, Virginia, California, and Alabama randomly. I don't know why Alabama. Out of all of them, that's the outlier, but those are the 5. So if you're looking to do law and you want to be a practicing lawyer, those are the 5 states where you can currently sit the bar exam. As far as transferring into forensics, if you want to get into a forensic science program, I can't think of any program that would have a problem recognizing your UK degree for sure.
I think the only point I would just add is, the question refers to studying something involving science and law. I think the challenge that you will have in the UK is combining subjects in the same way that you can do in the US, something like science and law. We do get asked this a lot around students who are interested in maybe a couple of subject areas, different disciplines, very different disciplines. Something like law is very vocational based, very limited in terms of, it's very focused learning, and you couldn't combine that with any subject outside of law. You may be able to do something related to business or a specialism within law, but you wouldn't be able to do anything outside of that subject area. So I think it's important just to understand that differentiation from what you might be used to a US college system.
Yep. And also forensic science is usually a master's degree in the UK as well. Next question before we wrap up, what is each college's minimum GPA? For Roehampton, minimum GPA is 2.8, 3.0, depending on the program, but it's really important to have AP exams if you're applying to English, creative writing, journalism, or the sciences.
Goldsmiths is a 3.0 minimum. Some programs will require 3.2 as a minimum unweighted GPA. And we are test optional for this year. And after that, we were for any like juniors or below in the room, we require a 26 ACT or a 1240 SAT.
Between me and Jason now, who's going to go for next? So at Northumbria, it's a 3.0 GPA, and we consider SAT 1240 or ACT 26 or APs 2 at level 3 or above, and that's a typical offer that we would give a US applicant.
Mm-hmm. And then minimum offer at Glasgow, pre-COVID is 3 subject tests at AP or SAT subject test level. If it's an AP, we need a 4. If it's an SAT subject test, we need at least a 600. You do have the option to replace one of those 3 subject tests with the SAT or ACT, but you can't do both. If you want to supply the SAT, we need at least a 1280, and we don't super score. If you want to supply the ACT, we need at least a 27. And then typically pre-COVID, Glasgow would not be looking at your GPA. Glasgow has gone test optional, so if you can't take any of those AP, SAT, ACT exams, don't worry about it. We're happy to accept a 3.0 GPA, and then looking at the classes that are on your transcript. So the class that you're applying to, history, English, will be looking for 4 years of history and English on your high school transcript, and for you to perform really well. Same thing for the sciences. If you're applying for bio, we're looking for 4 years of biology.
Great, thanks so much, everyone. And we'll bring it back to PACAC.
I think you're muted.
Amber.
Thank you. So thank you, and thank you all for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was one of just many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions at pacac.org. That's PACAC.org. In about a week, you'll be able to find the session's recording as well as all the other session recordings at pacac.org, PACAC.org. Thank you.